Okay, we're going to finish up the last part of the notes. It's on surface area of cylinders. And as I was saying, if you can think about the round part of the cylinder, that's equal to the circumference times the height, which is there. So the surface area of cylinders is similar to the surface area of the prism. The only difference is the shape of the base, which is a circle. Recall to find the area of the circle, we've got the formula pi r squared. So the lateral area is equal to 2 pi r h, which is here, and then we're adding on the top and the bottom of that cylinder, which is your two bases, which is two circles. And we just remember the area of one of the circles is pi r squared. All right, so let's go look at the example, and then again, I'm going to go find another cylinder for us here as well. Okay, so if you look at your formula sheet for area of a cylinder, it says, or for surface area of a cylinder, it says 2 pi rh plus 2 pi r squared. So we know r is the radius, which has been given. And we know the height of our cylinder, which in this case is 18. So first of all, let's leave it in terms of pi. So I'm just going to cast those pi's off to the side. I'm going to type in everything else. So to begin with, I see 2 times 5 times 18. That gives me 180 pi. And then I've got 2 times 5 squared, which gives me 50 pi. Finally, when I add those together, I get 230 pi, or if they want me to write it in terms of, that would be left in terms of pi. They ask me to take it to a decimal. That would be 722.6. And again, we tend to say this is exact form, and this is rounded to the nearest 10. Okay, so let's go look at one last example, and that is I've got a candle sitting in front of me, and I want to go find the surface area of the candle. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually, let's start with the easier part, which would be the top and the bottom, which are your two bases. So if you look at your formula to find the area of the base, it's pi r squared, so I need to go find the radius, and we're just going to simply estimate what that would be here. So that would go, and I think it might be easier. Let's flip this upside down. I'm going from the center to its edge. So it looks like the radius would be about 5. So let me go ahead and write that down. I'm just going to insert this in here. This is our candle example. So we've got 2 pi r squared. We figured out that the radius was 5. Which actually is the same thing as what we got down there. So you've got 50 pi for the top and the bottom of our candle. Now what we need to do is go ahead and figure out what this part would be here, which would be kind of your label if it went all the way around. That's the lateral area, and again, if you look at that formula, it corresponds with your circumference, which is 2 pi r, and then times your height. Because again, if I was to unwrap this label, I end up with a rectangle. All right, so we already figured out that the radius was 5. The second thing we need to do is go and find the height of my candle. So let's go and find that. And again, I'm going to measure it in centimeters. Looks like it's about 8.5 centimeters tall. So again, let's cast that pi off to the side. I'm going to plug in everything else. I see 2 times 5 times 8.5. And I'm coming up with 85 pi. And then finally, I would need to add those together. 85 plus the 50 gives me 135 pi, or as a decimal, I would get 424.1. Now, just to kind of reinforce that whole idea that this guy right here is the circumference, if I truly did want to measure all the way around, Let's go ahead. So I'm going to go ahead and measure all the way around my circle or my cylinder. I'm coming up with approximately, and I know you can't really see it, but I'm coming up with approximately 32 all the way around, and then times that height, which was the 8.5. So let's just check it. Again, we said it was about 32 times a height of 8.5. We should be coming up with something close to 85 pi. I got 272. Well, let's compare that to the 85 pi, 267. So again, we're pretty close. Like I said, just trying to reinforce that the distance around is the same thing as the circumference. So I can truly measure it if I had my tools. If not, all I need is the radius and my circumference formula. Okay, as always, you let me know if there's any questions. I can get online and Zoom with you or answer some of those individually on the discussion board as well. Thanks so much.